Democrats, they are anxious this very night, very anxious. Jerry Nadler all of a sudden is beginning to sweat. The cowardly Schiff, well, he's looking even more shifty than he usually is. By the way, he was the only guy caught on tape actually colluding with Russians. Tell me what you have. We got naked pics of Trump. Does Vladimir know? It's all on tape. That idiot. He thought he was getting intel to impact our elections. Why don't we investigate that guy? Anyway, I digress. The infighting between Pelosi, her radical base is getting worse every single day, and the fringe far-left candidates running to be president are more than scary. They're also less than inspiring, and their ideas are chilling. But the Democratic Party tonight, as we come on the air, they are in shambles, and for good reason. The multi-year Russia collusion hoax was a failure. Trump winning happened. They can't accept truth and reality. 4 investigations have exonerated the president. And by the way, look at his presidency, a huge success. Thank goodness, thank God, the economy is booming. The forgotten men and women, nearly 7 million Americans off of food stamps, as many out of poverty. And we have the lowest unemployment, the best employment situation since 1969. And yes, people left behind. Every demographic are doing better, setting record low unemployment numbers in this country. That is great news. But for the Democrats, well, they're playing, I guess, whatever they always do, games. They're not doing anything to help the American people. They don't have any agenda that's going to solve our problem. It's a card that they keep playing over and over again. Russia, 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 Russia. Maybe if we investigate 100 times, we'll get the conclusion we want. And that doesn't work that way. Because in their desperate effort to keep their Russia collusion hoax, their conspiracy theories alive for as long as possible, well, Chairman Jerry Nadler of the Judiciary Committee and Intel Chair, that's frightening, Adam the Cowardly Schiff, they're forcing Bob Mueller to testify in public on Capitol Hill. And he kind of said he didn't want to do it, and he's only going to stick to the report. We'll see next Wednesday. I don't think this is going to work out the way they think. Matter of fact, I'm almost certain. According to the AP, Democrats are now beginning to listen to Hannity. They're worried about next Wednesday's hearing. I'm excited about it. They should be. Robert Mueller has long said that the report will speak for itself. No collusion, no conspiracy, 0 charges for obstruction of justice. That was decided, as it should be, special counsel law, if they'd actually read it, by the Attorney General, the Deputy Attorney General, and the Office of Legal Counsel. Those questions have all been thoroughly answered in the exhaustive, frankly political, poorly written, horribly, law-based 448-page report. Meanwhile, Republicans should focus on the litany of what are unanswered questions that we have previewed on this program last night, and we're going to do for a full hour tomorrow night. The political bias, the prosecutorial misconduct, politics, conflict of interest, so many other crucial topics will finally get the attention they deserve. That's going to come from the Republicans on that committee, and it's coming. And this comes as the Democrats' frenzied calls for impeachment, they're actually gone quiet. Look at this from Politico. Quote, the most prominent House advocates for impeachment proceedings acknowledge the push has, slowed to a standstill. That means if you want to go ahead, great, because that's going to guarantee Trump's reelection and the Republicans get control of the House and Senate. And we can solve more of America's problems and help the forgotten men and women even more, become richer and raise the standard of living and become energy independent, where the Straits of Hormuz will never matter to us again in terms of strategic foreign policy. But that's not stopping Nadler's never-ending subpoena party. Look at what he wants now. He wants to now plan to again forcibly interview a boatload of current former administration officials as part of what is now the fifth official duplicate investigation into what we already know. There was no Trump-Russia collusion or conspiracy. And the cowardly Schiff, the guy who's on tape colluding with the Russian guy, he's conducting a separate 6th investigation. How many bites of the apple do they want? President Trump summed it up perfectly. He wrote, quote, Democrats have asked to see 12 more people who have already spent hours with Robert Mueller, spent a fortune on lawyers in doing so. How many bites of the apple do they get to before working on border loopholes, asylum, and maybe jobs and keeping America safe and secure and prosperous? And as you watch all this, you got to wonder, do they care about anybody in the country besides themselves and their psychotic rage and hatred towards Trump? This is beyond a psychosis. Now, Democrats don't care if they bankrupt private citizens with legal bills. Not only did they testify before Mueller, they want them to answer the same questions that they've given to the House committee, the Senate committee, the Mueller report. How many more times are you going to This is harassment. They should be caring about what is a desperate situation at the border. They don't even care about the so-called dreamers or DACA, which they claim they used to. They could have agreed to the president's compromise. They refused to even sit and talk with him. And now the only thing Democrats seem to care about is smearing, besmirching, and slandering the president and destroying anyone and everyone who supports him. And quite frankly, this is beyond sick. A great deal maker is now in the White House. He's willing to negotiate even with you people that hate him, with both sides of the aisle, on so many important issues to move the country forward, to help, let's see, the carpenters, the plumbers, the electricians, the nurses, and everybody else in America raise their standard of living. Is that what they're focused on? No, because these people on the left and their buddies in the media mob, they can't see through the fog of their own rage to sit and come to the table and solve America's problems and make America a better, safer place for our children and grandchildren. Oh, what a novel idea. Instead, they're still obsessively talking about conspiracy theories, hoax, and lies that they've been peddling for over 2 years, and a stack of frivolous subpoenas from the washed-up lawyers in the Democratic House.
Here now, former House Oversight Committee Chairman and Fox News contributor Trey Gowdy. Trey, good evening to you. Why is there a limit on the amount of time? Is that something that was, requested in order for the agreement here to testify?
Yeah, lots of witnesses do that. Lots of witnesses say, I'll come for 2 hours. You can ask me whatever you want those 2 hours, but then I'm leaving. That's not unusual. Martha, remember when Barr was coming about a month ago, Nadler wasn't even going to let any of the members question him. He was going to have a staffer no one's ever heard of. So I don't know why the Democrat members are upset. At least some of them are getting to get to ask Mueller something with Barr. He wasn't going to let any of them talk.
So when you oversaw the Benghazi hearings, it went on much longer. How were you able to negotiate that longer time period?
Well, I mean, that was a little different fact pattern. She was running for president. Obviously, she wanted to answer all of the questions. We enlarged the 5 minutes to 10 minutes because you can't do anything in 5 minutes. And, at the end, the media still said we didn't learn anything new. Well, hey, you're not going to learn anything new next Wednesday anyway. One of the House members you just played a clip from, I can't help. I mean, that's one of the most ludicrous arguments I've ever heard. There are 435 members of the House, 90% of whom are not on Intel or Judiciary. They're not going to be able to ask any questions of Mueller. So the fact that you've been elected to the House does not mean you get to question Bob Mueller. So, it doesn't even mean you get to be on the Judiciary Committee or the Intel Committee. So
it's true.
Look, there are a handful of good questioners on both sides, but only a handful. And our Republicans we're going to be really strong having poor questioners not be able to take their 5 minutes with Bob Mueller. Trust
and
me,
most of them spend most of their 5 minutes, formulating a question before they even allow someone to answer anyway. So I would imagine there's going to be a fair amount of that. When you look at Bob Mueller himself and this interesting comment that was made by Attorney General Barr about, if he decides not to go, we would support that. Do you think there's a chance that Robert Mueller is considering maybe taking a pass on this whole thing?
Well, he doesn't want to come at all. Remember, I mean, he hadn't said much in the last 2 years. One thing he said pretty clearly was, I hope this is my only public statement. So they're bringing him. They want to keep the story alive. He's not going to participate in that. He's not going to answer anything outside the four corners of his report. So this is just to have a day-long series. The focus will be on the questions. Mueller's not going to give you any interesting answers. Yeah, but, I have quizzed him before.
Republicans are going to, I would imagine.
It's going to be boring.
Pardon me. Republicans, I would imagine, are going to want to know, why he didn't look into the origins of the investigation, all of those kinds of questions. When did he know? At what point did he conclude that there wasn't any collusion, and why didn't he, come forward with that information? Isn't that what we're likely to hear from Republicans?
Sure, and this will be his answer. Why didn't I look into anything else? Because I wasn't asked to. When did I conclude there was no collusion? When I interviewed the last witness.
Yeah. And that'll be that.
That's it.
Yeah.
Mueller is a Marine, former FBI director. He's not. He is going to answer the question maybe and nothing more. You will learn nothing next Wednesday except a lot of my former colleagues think they're great questioners and think that they should have their 5 minutes.
All right. We'll talk about this more as we get closer to it. I do want to take a look with you because you are a South Carolinian at this South Carolina poll that shows Joe Biden, at least at this point, in very good shape in South Carolina. 35% among Democratic voters there. Sanders at 14, Harris at 12. She would very much like to have a strong showing there among African-American voters in South Carolina. He's at 41%. Talk to me about the strong affection for Joe Biden in South Carolina, at least at this point.
Well, I think Democrats in South Carolina are very familiar with him. He's come a lot. He eulogized Strom Thurmond. He's worked with Lindsey Graham in the past, so he's a known commodity. I think as my fellow South Carolinians who vote in the Democrat primary get to know Senator Harris and Senator Warren and Tulsi Gabbard and others, his numbers will come down. But look, people like him. I'm not going to vote for him, but people like him. And likability still matters in politics. You put your finger on it. You have to do well with communities of color in the Democrat primary in South Carolina. But he was the vice president to the most popular politician of color the country's ever known, in Barack Obama. And you better believe he will remind people of that. He was very loyal to President Obama when lots of other Democrats were kind of flirting with the Clintons.
That's true.
I think black voters in South Carolina will remember that.
Thank you, Trey. Good to see you tonight. Trey Gowdy, we'll talk to you as we get closer to this big thing on Wednesday. Lots more to talk about with regard to that. Good night. Thanks for being here.